What's going on, guys? In this video we're going over the reason why your life is boring. Now be sure to stick around to the end, because after I explain why, I'm going to explain to you how you can make this change so that you can have a very interesting life and always have stuff to talk about with people and things like that. Now before we get into that, my name's Keefe. I made this channel to help men create their ideal lives through self-mastery. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you don't miss tomorrow's video, and let's get straight into it. So guys, if you find yourself in a spot where you feel like your life is just, it's boring. When people ask you a question, they're like, what have you been up to? And you're like, oh, not much. How about you? And stuff like that. And when you actually say not much, you're not just saying not much because you're shy. You're actually because you haven't been doing shit and stuff like that. That means your life's boring, and that's not how it's supposed to be. We live in this amazing world. Like, I genuinely walk outside and just get blown away sometimes by just the world. It really is an incredible place. There's so much to do, and there's like stuff for everybody's interests out there. So really what it comes down to, if you find yourself in a place where you're just like, my life's boring, maybe you're just bored genuinely during your day, well, this comes down to you're not getting out of your comfort zone. And in that, it means you're also conforming. So the comfort zone part has to do with you personally. If you're not getting out of your comfort zone, first of all, you're not going to be interesting to other people. And you're also probably not going to have a very fun life, because the things that are thrilling in life are the things that require you to get out of your comfort zone. I remember the first time I rode, there's this roller coaster. I live near Carowinds in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's like they have the biggest the fastest roller coaster on the East Coast, apparently. Might even be like the whole country, I don't know. But anyways, they got the fastest coaster on the East Coast, at least. And the first time I rode this thing, I remember I was shitting myself. Like, I really did not want to ride this thing at all. And I get on the ride, and I'm tripping out the whole way going up the chain link to the top. And I go over we go over and we go down the hill, and I just remember specifically just like the thrill hitting me, and like I ended up riding it like 5 times straight. Like, it was so much fun, and it was because I got out of that comfort zone, and I really enjoyed doing it. And because of that, now I have this story to tell you. So I mean, like, look, that's not even really that interesting of a thing that I did, but it was a story that I could share with you because I did it. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, it's really obvious what I'm saying here, right? Like, you've never gone to a movie theater to watch a movie about an ordinary person who doesn't do anything out of the ordinary in the movie. He just does boring stuff, right? You might go to the movies and watch a guy who, at the beginning of the movie, he's an ordinary guy, but what happens? He usually turns into a superhero or something, right? Now, we like those kinds of stories, but we don't like the kind of story where you start off ordinary and you finish ordinary, because then you leave the movie theater and you're like, that was a waste of 2 hours of my life, right? People find themselves in this funny bind. It's like, because humans are very social creatures, right? We're very conformist. I always tell people, you know that saying that people say where they're like, if like your parents always say it too, if you give them the excuse of like, but everybody else is doing it, and they'll ask you like, well, if everyone jumped off a cliff, would you jump off a cliff? I don't know if that's something everybody said. That's something my parents said to me. And the point was to say that just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean you should do it. But honestly, I beg to differ. If everybody jumped off a cliff, I think most people would jump off a cliff with them, because I mean, just look around at like people act in such a like herd mentality way, straight sheep mentality. So people find themselves in this ironic bind between they don't want to be boring, but they also don't want to feel weird and isolated, like they're the only one doing something. So we find ourselves in this weird kind of conundrum, and the key is to figure out, I guess, how to be enough weird that you feel comfortable with it, pretty much. And as you get more, I guess, weird, you could say, and I'm going to clarify what I mean by weird here in just a second, but the more weird you get, the more comfortable you get with it, until you realize, like, one day you wake up and realize that you're actually a pretty weird guy. Like, I realized that recently. I was like, I'm actually kind of a weird guy. I mean, I don't mind, but like, I'm just saying, like, it happens gradually over time. It's like you do one thing out of the ordinary that's got you out of your comfort zone, then you do another thing and another thing and another thing, and next thing you know, you are living life completely on your terms, and you've got a lot of interesting stuff going on in your life as a result. So basically what I mean though by weird, when I'm saying it, weird has this bad connotation, like weird as in that's not a good thing, but there's no reason. Weird just means, if you strip it of its social meaning, sort of, weird as a definition strictly just means out of the ordinary, right? So doing something out of the ordinary is what we find interesting, right? And the only difference between weird and cool, honestly, is if the person can own it or not, right? Like the same way like they talk about in like dating advice, like if your body language is like really sound, and you go to like, you're talking to a girl and you put your hands on the girl because she's like into you and all that, and you do it in a really confident manner, it's this really attractive thing. But if you do it in like a creepy manner, she thinks you're a creep and she gets scared of you. It's like the exact same movement, but you, the person doing it, was different, and so you got a completely different result. So really all it is when it comes to like, if you're scared of being weird, it's just to own whatever it is that you're doing, and it ends up being cool. And in fact, people will start doing it because you owned it so well. So in a way, boring and weird are like opposite sides of a spectrum here. So on the boring end of the spectrum, you've got like the average guy making average money with an average wife, and he's got nothing really going on with his life. He has no plan, all that kind of stuff. Nothing inspires him, that kind of stuff, right? That's on one end of the spectrum. On the other end of the spectrum, you've got like Elon Musk, LeBron James, Donald Trump type of people. And these people, if you honestly analyze them, they're pretty weird guys, right? I mean, just by like who they are, being the 1 in a billion people that they are, they're pretty weird just for that. But then if you look at their habits and their idiosyncrasies, like LeBron James spends over $1 million a year on fitness for his body. Like most people will like don't even make $1 million a year. Like 99% of people don't make $1 million a year, and this man's spending that on his body, on his health every single year. I mean, Donald Trump, like, he talks kind of weird, right? And he's got like a very like bullish persona that some people would find weird. He does things that if he didn't own it so well, which like, I mean, he's like the master at owning himself and owning what he does. If he didn't own it, everyone would think it was weird. I mean, as it is, like 40% of America hates his guts simply for these things, but he owns it, so the rest of them like him. And when it comes to Elon Musk, I mean, didn't he just name his kid like, it was like his kid has like a VIN number for a name, right? Like, it's totally weird, but like he's like this zany guy, so we're like, oh, we love Elon, even though Elon's like totally weird as hell when you really look at it. But all of these guys are just owning what they're doing. Like, if you tried to make fun of like LeBron James for the fact that you're like, LeBron, you spend $1 million on your body, that's weird. Like, he wouldn't give a fuck, right? He would own it. He'd be like, yeah, I spend $1 million. Like, he wouldn't think anything of it, right? And then all of a sudden you would be the one who needed to fall in line with what he thought. So like I said, weird and cool are the same thing. It's just who is presenting it, who do you have the confidence behind it. And so maybe you're interested in, I don't know, anime, and anime is typically considered some weird nerdy kind of thing, right? But if you own it and you're like, yeah, that's cool, and like you don't look like you're approval seeking in the fact that you're doing it, then people won't care. They'll in fact be interested and they'll want to learn more for the most part. And if the people around you don't want to learn more, well, there are people out there who do, and you can link with those kinds of people. But you basically can't apologize for being you, and that's really part of what it means to be like cool and not be boring, basically, because everybody's unique, right? We've got our own unique interests. Even within your group that might have a lot of common interests, you've got unique parts of you that they don't have. And that's what makes you you, and that's what's the fun of being a person, right? So all of this just brings me to my point on how you can stop being boring and you can start being, I guess, weird, you could say, or cool, whatever you want to call it. And that's really just to own who you are, own your interests, and expand on those interests. A lot of people don't pursue their interests because they're afraid of what people will think. But guys, like, I know, I mean, if you've been watching this channel for a while, then I know you've got some sort of interest, because I talk all the time about helping men create their ideal lives through self-mastery. So I would assume if you're watching this channel, you're interested in improving yourself, which there's a lot of interesting things that come out of that. Like, the self-development industry is a massive, continually growing industry because there's so many different ideas in it. There's a lot of cool stuff involved in self-development, like morning routines, or going to the gym, or learning to talk to girls, or fixing your social issues, like all kinds of different stuff in there. And basically, like, you can start there and then branch off. I think a good place to figure this out too is, like, if you haven't got a vision for your life, that's a telltale sign that you're gonna be kind of boring, right? Because honestly, having a vision is kind of weird, really, because like the vision is exclusive to you. Like, maybe at first it starts off and your vision is more like what the world tells you should want. So your vision is a mansion in LA with a bunch of like bikini models running around driving a Ferrari, and that sounds awesome, right? And then over time you realize that's more like what people told you should want, and it starts to refine and refine and refine and become more what you want. And maybe that is what you want, and that's fine, but most of the time you're going to find that what you want specifically is different than what everyone else wanted you to want. And it gets more and more interesting as you do that, because it becomes more and more you. This is, I don't know, this is just my gut feeling, but I think people are really attracted to other people who are living in their truth, who are being who they are, because they envy it in a sense. They partly, some of them envy it, and then some of them really admire it, right? Because if you're living in your truth, that's a very courageous thing to do. So many people conform. I mean, like, look at people putting black squares on their Instagram. Like, a lot of people I know just put black squares on their Instagram for that Blackout Tuesday thing, just because they didn't want people to get mad at them, right? Like, that's total conformity. They weren't living in their truth. And I'm not making a judgment on the movement either way in this video. I'm just saying that they're conforming when they do that, right? They're just in that they're not living their truth, right? And so this is essentially when they see somebody living in their truth. When people see somebody else living in their truth, they find that very inspiring and very attractive, and that's really how you stop being boring and start being cool. So like I said, guys, get a vision for your life. And part of that vision is you're going to have to get some clarity around what you want. When you get clarity around what you want, you're going to have to figure out how to get it. And then two, that is going to kind of like hone your focus. So maybe you want to, maybe your vision is you want to make $1 million a year, and you want to do it doing, like, I don't know, something to do with sports, right? Okay, so now you got to figure out what you want to do with sports. So maybe you dabble in different things. You start by learning about sports casting or sports writing, or you go to a bunch of games and figure stuff out, or maybe you want to get into coaching. Like, you end up trying new experiences, and again, this is going to require you to get out of your comfort zone. But now you have stories to tell, so the next time someone says, "What have you been up to?" you can be like, well, I actually have a mentor who's teaching me how to do sports marketing or something like that. And we ended up getting courtside seats to a basketball game because I was pursuing my interests. So I went and got this, and now I'm not boring. I'm cool because I have something to talk about. I can give you some personal examples from my life that might help you. So, I mean, I've been very invested in the idea of improving myself and getting my goals for multiple years now. And along that way, I've tried pretty much everything. I talked about in a video recently how I'm pretty much a pragmatic guy. I'll try whatever I think will help me get to my goal, regardless of how weird it seems. And as a result, I do a lot of very unorthodox things. I mean, to start with, I get up early, which, I mean, really shouldn't be unorthodox. It's not really that weird that I do that, because it's not like I can talk about the fact that I get up early. I just get up early. But I mean, I have a morning routine that I'm very strict with. I meditate every day, which I don't think most people meditate. I mean, for God's sakes, I have literally YouTube videos on this channel talking about semen retention. Like, obviously, like, and the thing is, like, I own it. I don't care. It's whatever, right? And that's part of, like, semen retention might still be kind of weird, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like, it goes from kind of like weird and like a get away from me kind of weird to like a weird, maybe I should try that out kind of weird, as long as you own it, essentially. So, like, I mean, I'll try all kinds of different things, and now I've got a lot of different things I can talk to people about. I've been very interested in the understanding of, like, the spirituality and consciousness and things like that, and I can go and go and go about that. I've learned a ton about psychology. Basically anything to do with developing and improving myself and understanding myself. I've done a lot of learning on it. I used to be very interested in cars when I was 11, 12 years old, like crazy into cars. I used to want to be a NASCAR driver. And so I literally can still see cars driving down the road, and I like cars, but I don't pay attention to them like that anymore. And I can like point out vehicles to people, and like, I mean, I'll literally can see like a headlight and tell what kind of like vehicle, like automaker it was. And people think this is kind of interesting because I'll just kind of spout it off, like I'm not even really paying attention, and I'll say it. And I mean, that's just another example, guys, but just like being comfortable with what your interests are, because I know you guys got them. Like, I know you haven't spent your entire life in front of a TV screen doing nothing. I know there have been things in your life, even if it was just when you were young, that you're interested in, and you should bring those to the surface and allow them to be you and be proud of those, and don't hide those from people, because it really is just, if you're hiding them, then it's most likely because you are hoping they'll approve of you. And again, that's a low-level behavior. You want to be good with you and approving of you, and you don't need their approval. Guys, I think I'm starting to ramble a little bit, so I'll wrap this one up here. I'm going to leave another video right here that I think you might like to watch. Be sure again to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you don't miss tomorrow's video. Give me a like if you got something out of this as well. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow.